chosen one. Pause right here. Do not scroll past this moment as if it were ordinary, because it is not. Heaven has intercepted your timeline, interrupted your feed, and stopped you mid-motion so that a message could be delivered straight into your spirit. This is not coincidence. This is not the algorithm. This is divine intervention. At this exact moment, God leans close to remind you, you are chosen, and your story is about to take a turn that will not make sense to people, but it will carry His undeniable signature. You have carried the sting of rejection, the ache of delay, the silence of prayers that seemed unanswered. Yet every locked door was not rejection, it was redirection. Every season of waiting was not punishment, it was preparation. You stand now at the edge of a divine interruption, a turning point where heaven whispers, "This is the moment I have kept you for." And the world cannot explain what is about to unfold in your life. Human logic will not line it up. People will shake their heads and wonder how you survived, what should have broken you, how doors opened that should have stayed closed. But you will know, this was not your strength, nor man's favor, but the hand of the Almighty, what others call survival. Heaven calls training. What you thought was the end was simply the valley before the mountain, and now the mountain is in sight. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 23, verse 4. Even though I walk through the valley of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, beloved. That verse is your reality. You have walked through shadows, yet you are still here. That is proof enough. God's hand has carried you. This word comes as confirmation, not entertainment. The enemy wanted you to scroll past, to drown yourself in noise, but heaven pressed pause so you could receive alignment. This is your invitation to step out of silence and into agreement with destiny. Now you must choose. Do you believe you were made to blend in or to carry light into darkness? If you know deep down that you are set apart, then declare it boldly in the comments. I am chosen, and I will not miss my moment. This is more than typing. It is a prophetic act. When you speak it, you silence doubt. When you write it, you announce to both heaven and hell, I have heard the call, and I will rise. Beloved, let this message settle deep. Something begins here, but it requires your participation. If your spirit feels the tug, don't delay. Like this word, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe so you remain connected to what heaven is releasing. This is not content, it is confirmation, alignment, and destiny unfolding before your eyes. Stay connected, for the next word may be the key that unlocks the very prayer you've been carrying. And before this moment ends, seal it with a prophetic number. Type 999 right now. Why? Because heaven is declaring, old cycles are closing, new beginnings are rising. Let the number 999 be your banner today. A declaration that endings in your life are giving birth to divine beginnings. Chosen one. You know the taste of rejection more than most. You have carried it in silence, swallowed it in rooms where no one noticed the ache inside you. The sting of being overlooked, betrayed, or abandoned has followed you like a shadow. And yet, what the enemy meant as a wound, heaven has transformed into a mark of your calling. Rejection was not proof of your unworthiness, It was proof of your distinction. It was never about them walking away from you, but about God removing what could not carry the weight of your destiny. Every tear you shed has been counted. Every night you cried quietly when no one else was there. Heaven was attentive. There were times you asked, "Why me? Why do they misunderstand me? Why do they turn their backs when all I gave was love?" The answer is this: you are not like the rest. You carry something different, and darkness recognizes it before you even do. That is why resistance has followed you. Not because you are cursed, but because you are chosen. Think back to the people who mocked your dreams, to the ones who tried to reduce your value. Their rejection was heaven's redirection. If they had stayed, they would have limited you. If they had approved of you, you might have settled for their version of small instead of God's version of greatness. What hurt you actually preserved you. And here is the mystery. You did not break under rejection. You became stronger. You did not lose your worth. You discovered your resilience. Beloved, what was meant to destroy you became the very soil where God planted endurance. The lonely road carved a deeper hunger for His presence. The silence you endured trained your ears to hear His voice with clarity. The betrayal you experienced was the classroom where you learned to forgive and rise above. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Isaiah, chapter 49, verse 16. "See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands. Your walls are ever before me." This is the truth that carries you. Even when people erased you from their lives, you were never erased from God's hands. Even when others ignored your worth, your name was etched permanently in heaven's memory. That is why you could not disappear. Why your light kept shining even when you tried to dim it. You are marked, and rejection cannot erase a mark made by the eternal hand of God. Chosen one. Do you see now why the path has been so heavy? You have been set apart for something greater than acceptance from men. You were not designed to fit their boxes, their circles, or their limitations. That constant sense of being different was not a flaw but a signal. It means you are called higher, destined for spaces where only the chosen can walk. Let the pain of rejection turn into fuel. Let it remind you that you are rare, that you are not easily replaced. The very reason they could not handle you is the very reason heaven has chosen you. You carry a weight of destiny that ordinary relationships could not sustain. So, lift your head. You are not forgotten. Every dismissal has been noted. Every betrayal has been recorded. And every wound has been seen by heaven. But none of it will define you. You are defined by the one who chose you before the foundations of the world. And when God chooses, no rejection can cancel it. Chosen one. Listen closely. You may not realize it, but every silent season of your life has been sacred training. While others saw nothing happening for you, heaven was busy shaping you in the unseen. The hidden years, the nights of questioning, the days where you felt forgotten, these were not wasted. They were classrooms. God had you in preparation, not punishment. Think about it. When an archer pulls back the bowstring, the arrow moves backward, away from the target, to the untrained eye. It looks like retreat, delay, or loss of progress. But the backward pull is necessary, because the greater the tension, the farther the arrow will fly. Chosen one. That is your story. You have been pulled back, stretched, and pressed. But this is not the end. This is the launch. There were times when you begged God to move faster, to open doors sooner, to let you be seen by those in power. But instead, He kept you hidden. Why? Because the stage was not ready for you yet. If you had been unveiled too soon, the weight of your calling might have crushed you. God loved you too much to allow premature exposure, so He tucked you away in seasons where no one celebrated you, no one noticed you, and no one clapped for you. And in that place, He was building a foundation that cannot be shaken. The ancient words recorded in Romans chapter 8, verse 28 remind us, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." That means not some things, but all things, even your rejection, even your failures, even the years you thought were wasted. Every piece has been woven into a greater design. Nothing was random. Every chapter was necessary to shape you into the person who can now carry the mantle of destiny. Beloved, this is why the opposition was so heavy. The enemy saw glimpses of who you are becoming and tried to crush you before you could emerge. But he underestimated the resilience planted inside of you by God Himself. You carry a light that terrifies darkness, and that is why you have always faced resistance. The more weight pressed against you, the stronger heaven made you. Now, you stand on the threshold. The preparation is nearly complete, and the moment of unveiling is closer than you think. But before heaven opens the next chapter, it calls you to respond. Comment these words below. I am ready. Now, why? Because writing those 3 words is more than just an action on a screen. It is an act of faith. When you type it, you are aligning yourself with heaven's timing. You are declaring that you accept the training, the silence, the stretching. You are saying, Lord, I see now that the preparation was necessary. I no longer resist it. I embrace what you've been building in me. I am ready for the unveiling. Now, do not underestimate this moment. Every prophetic declaration requires agreement. When you speak or even type truth with your own hand, it seals it in your heart. It is a simple phrase, but it echoes in eternity. So, chosen one, remember, you were hidden, not forgotten. You were delayed, not denied. You were prepared, not punished. And soon, the world will see what heaven already knows. You are ready, chosen one. You must understand something that few grasp. God rarely works in straight lines. His ways are not confined to human logic, and His strategies often appear upside down to the eyes of men. The very events that seem chaotic, confusing, or even nonsensical are the places where heaven is crafting its greatest moves. If you have ever wondered why your path feels so unpredictable, it is because divine order does not submit to human expectation. Consider the stories of old. When the Israelites were trapped at the Red Sea, logic would have demanded a bridge or a boat. Instead, God split the waters. When Gideon faced a vast army, reason would have told him to gather more soldiers. Instead, God reduced His army to a mere 300. When the walls of Jericho stood tall and unshakable, no weapon of war could bring them down. Instead, God commanded His people to march in silence. Then shout, and the walls crumbled. Chosen one. Do you see the pattern? God delights in strategies that confound the wise. Why does He work this way? Because when the victory comes, no one can take the credit but Him. If the plan made sense to human minds, they would claim it was their own strength. But when the breakthrough arrives through impossible means, every eye is forced to look upward. That is the kind of testimony he is writing in your life, a story that cannot be explained by logic, only by the hand of God. You may be standing right now in a place that looks like contradiction. Perhaps you feel as though God's instructions to you do not add up. He told you to wait when everything in you wanted to run. He closed doors that seemed perfect and left you staring at walls that looked immovable. Yet, beneath the surface, his strategy has been unfolding, step by step. What seems unreasonable in the moment often becomes undeniable in hindsight. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 1, verse 27, "But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong." That is the principle you are living in. What feels foolish now will become the very thing that silences the voices of doubt around you. Think back to moments in your own journey, times when you could not understand why God asked you to release something, to walk away, or to remain silent when you wanted to defend yourself. Those were not random delays or arbitrary commands. They were divine strategies, setting you up for victories that would never have come through ordinary means. Chosen one. It is easy to trust God when His plan aligns with your logic. The real test is whether you can trust Him when His plan does not make sense. Faith is not agreement with what you already understand. It is surrender to what only heaven sees. You are being invited into a level of trust that is deeper than feelings, stronger than reason, and anchored beyond circumstance. When you feel the tension of confusion, remember, you are not being abandoned, you are being positioned. Heaven's strategy is unfolding even when you cannot track every step. And soon, when the pieces come together, you will see that the moves that baffled you were the very keys that unlocked the impossible. Chosen one. Hold steady. God's strange strategies are never mistakes. They are the very fingerprints of a miracle in motion. Chosen one. Think back to the moments when everything seemed to collapse at once. The doors you were counting on slammed shut. The friendships you leaned on dissolved. Opportunities you thought were yours slipped away like water through your hands. At the time, it felt like disaster. You whispered to yourself, "Why is everything breaking apart?" Yet, from heaven's perspective, it was not destruction, it was reconstruction. God was clearing the stage of your life so that what was false could fall away and what was true could remain. Breaking seasons are never comfortable. They leave you with empty hands and aching hearts, but they are also the most fertile ground for transformation. In the breaking, pride is shattered. In the breaking, illusions are stripped away. In the breaking, you discover the strength of your spirit and the depth of your dependence on God. What you thought was an ending was really a beginning, disguised in ashes. Look closer. Even in those seasons where it felt like you had lost everything, something else was quietly being built within you. Greater patience, sharper vision, deeper humility, stronger faith. These qualities could not have been forged in ease or comfort. They required the fire of testing. The breaking was not a punishment for who you are, but preparation for who you are becoming. The prophet Jeremiah gives us heaven's perspective in chapter 18, verse 4. "But the pot he was shaping from the clay was marred in his hands, so the potter formed it into another pot, shaping it as seemed best to him." Do you see? The clay must sometimes be crushed and reshaped. What looked ruined in your eyes was simply God molding you into something greater. This is why you could not hold on to certain relationships, jobs, or opportunities. They were never meant to carry the weight of your calling. God allowed them to break so He could rebuild you on a foundation that cannot be shaken. And though it was painful, though you wondered if you would make it through, you are still here, stronger, wiser, more aligned with heaven's plan. Chosen one. As you read this, I want to speak to your spirit directly. Stop mourning the things that fell apart. Stop labeling yourself by what you lost. The breaking was necessary, and the new season you are stepping into will make sense of every shattered piece. Now, let me pause here and share my heart with you. If these words are stirring something deep inside, if they bring confirmation to your spirit, then I want you to stay connected. This journey is not meant to be walked alone. That is why I ask you sincerely, like this message, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe so that you do not miss the next word. Heaven is releasing, not because numbers matter, but because your alignment matters. When you stay connected, you remain in position for the flow of what God is saying. Beloved, never forget, the breaking season is not the end of your story. It is the place where heaven began shaping you into a vessel that can carry glory, and soon, the same people who watched you fall apart will witness the beauty of what God has rebuilt in you. Chosen one. There is a rhythm in the spirit that only those attuned can sense. Right now, heaven is signaling you with a number, a prophetic code written into time itself. You may have been seeing it in unexpected places on clocks, receipts, license plates, or even in your dreams. These are not coincidences. These are divine confirmations that God is speaking, reminding you that what ended in the last season is about to open into something entirely new. Think of how God works through patterns. Noah counted days and weeks while inside the ark, and then heaven marked the time for release. Daniel discerned the appointed years of exile through prophecy and prayer. John, exiled on Patmos, was shown visions in cycles of sevens, numbers pregnant with meaning. Beloved, the same God who marked seasons with numbers in Scripture is marking your path today. He is using signs to whisper, pay attention. The transition is at hand. You have felt it inside your spirit. An ending has taken place. Old doors have closed and will not reopen. The cycles that once repeated in your life, cycles of disappointment, betrayal, and delay, have reached their conclusion. You may still feel the echoes of loss, but what you are sensing now is not emptiness. It is space being cleared for the new. Heaven is declaring completion, and with completion comes rebirth. The ancient words recorded in Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1 declare, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens." This is your confirmation. The season that drained you has ended, and a new chapter is being written. Even as you read these words, do not mistake the silence as inactivity. God has already begun. Chosen one, you are about to step into a season where the unexpected becomes normal. Opportunities will come from places you never pursued. People who once overlooked you will suddenly seek your voice. What felt impossible last year will be the very testimony you carry this year. This shift is not logical, but it is divine, and the number that marks it is your banner of agreement with heaven. So right now, I ask you to take a prophetic step. Comment this number: 444. Why 444? Because it is a number of alignment, stability, and the firm foundation that heaven is establishing beneath your feet. Where things once felt shaky, God is setting order. Where doors once opened and shut without warning, God is anchoring you in permanence. By typing 444, you are not just responding to content, you are declaring agreement. Lord, I step into your order. I accept your timing. I trust your foundation. It may seem like a small act, but in the spiritual realm, it is weighty. Every prophetic number you align with is like planting a stake in the ground, claiming territory that heaven has promised. The enemy cannot stand it when you publicly agree with what God is doing, because it signals your refusal to stay silent. So let your fingers be your faith today. As you write 444, see it as more than digits on a screen. See it as heaven recording your alignment. You are saying yes to the new. Yes to the shift. Yes to the season where divine order replaces chaos. Chosen one. The numbers are speaking, but more importantly, heaven is speaking, and you are listening. That is why this word has found you today. Chosen one. Have you noticed that the battle has felt fiercest just before breakthrough moments? It is no accident. The enemy is a strategist too, but his strategy always overreaches. He has a habit of pressing hardest when heaven is nearest to unveiling its plans. When your spirit feels weighed down, when the attacks seem relentless, when weariness makes you wonder if you can endure one more day, it is often the sign that you are on the edge of divine reversal. Darkness is not creative, it only reacts to what heaven is doing. When the enemy senses that your destiny is about to unfold, he moves quickly, trying to discourage you, distract you, or drain you of hope. But what he fails to realize is that his very attack becomes the evidence that you are closer to victory than ever before. If there were no promise on your life, there would be no pressure against it. The battle you face is not proof that you are abandoned. It is proof that you are carrying something the enemy fears. Consider the moment when Jesus was led into the wilderness. The Spirit had just descended on him like a dove. Heaven's voice had just declared him beloved. And immediately the enemy came with temptation. Why? Because before Jesus began his public mission, darkness tried to derail him. The pattern repeats in your life. The greatest resistance often comes right before the greatest release. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus. Chapter 14, verse 13. Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. Those words, spoken to a people hemmed in by the Red Sea and Pharaoh's army, still echo into your situation. When you feel trapped, when the enemy presses in on every side, heaven's command is the same. Stand firm. Deliverance is closer than you think. Look back at your journey. Were there not times when you thought you had reached the end, when you could not see a way forward, and yet, suddenly, the impossible happened? That was not luck. That was heaven stepping in at the very moment the enemy thought he had won. What you are living through now is no different. The tension, the struggle, the heaviness, it is the prelude to a sudden turn. Chosen one. Do not confuse pressure with defeat. Pressure is evidence of value. Just as coal must be pressed to become a diamond, and olives must be crushed to release oil, your current struggle is producing something precious inside you. What you carry could not be released without resistance. The very weight you feel is the sign of what is being birthed. And here is the paradox. The enemy, in trying to destroy you, is actually pushing you closer to your destiny. Every scheme he throws at you becomes another piece God weaves into his design. What the enemy intends for harm, heaven converts into fuel for your testimony. That is why you can endure. That is why you rise again after every fall. You are not fragile. You are forged. So hold steady. Beloved, the overplayed hand of the enemy will soon expose him. The pressure you feel now is the indicator that the tables are about to turn. And when they do, it will be undeniable. The God who defended Israel at the sea, the God who raised his son from the grave, is the same God fighting for you now. Chosen one. There is a strange beauty in the way God turns things upside down. What looked like loss, what felt like devastation, is often the very seed of your greatest blessing. Heaven's economy does not operate by the same rules as Earth's. Men call it failure. God calls it foundation. People label it the end. Heaven calls it the beginning. What was stripped from your hands was never subtraction, it was exchange. Think about the story of Joseph, betrayed by his brothers, sold as a slave, falsely accused, and thrown into prison by every human measure. His life was a downward spiral. But what men intended for evil, God used for good. The prison became the pathway to the palace. The rejection became the road to recognition. What looked like defeat was the exact setup for destiny. The same thread runs through your own story. The closed doors that broke your heart, the betrayals that left you in tears, the losses that seemed unbearable. Each one contained a hidden key. Heaven was orchestrating a shift that you could not yet see. Just as seeds must first be buried in the dark before they burst into life, your buried seasons are about to erupt with fruit. Scripture says in the Gospel of John, chapter 12, verse 24, "Very truly I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds." That is the paradox you are living in. Something had to die. Something had to end for multiplication to be released in your life. What you mourned as loss is about to prove itself as increase. Chosen one. Recall the moments you thought you could not go on, the friendships that ended without explanation, the opportunities that crumbled despite your effort, the sudden shifts that left you gasping for stability. At the time, all you could see was absence. But now, with spiritual eyes, you can begin to discern the pattern. What left you made room for what is coming. What broke you created space for God's healing hand to shape you anew. You see, heaven is not careless. Every exchange has purpose. When God allows something to be removed, He always intends to replace it with something greater. The upside-down blessing is this: you lost what you thought you needed, but you will gain what you never imagined. That relationship that ended preserved you for someone who will treasure your worth. That opportunity that failed opened space for a calling beyond your own plans. That season of tears watered the soil of the harvest you are about to reap. The enemy wanted you to believe that loss defined you, but loss has only refined you. Every wound became wisdom. Every tear became oil. Every ending became the womb of a beginning. What the world calls downward is heaven's way of lifting you higher. So do not despise what has been taken from you. Do not cling to what God has already asked you to release. Trust the strange, upside-down blessing that is unfolding in your life. Soon, you will look back and realize, if you had not lost what you lost, you would not have gained what is about to be placed in your hands. Chosen one. Your voice carries weight in the spiritual realm. Do not underestimate the power that rests in your tongue. Every word you speak, every declaration you make, echoes beyond the natural into the unseen. That is why the battles against you have often tried to silence you. The enemy fears your voice because when you align it with heaven, it becomes a weapon. From the very beginning, creation responded to words. God spoke, and light appeared. God declared, and the seas gathered into place. Everything you see around you was first born from the power of words. And because you are made in His image, your words hold the same principle. They create, they release, they establish. When you speak in faith, you set things in motion that cannot be undone. But notice how often you have been pressured into silence. In moments of pain, you held back your cry. In seasons of injustice, you swallowed your defense. Even in worship, sometimes shame or distraction muted your praise. These were not random struggles, they were strategic attempts to steal your voice. Because if your declarations were released, they would shift atmospheres. The ancient words recorded in Proverbs, chapter 18, verse 21, declare, "The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit." Do you see? Chosen one, this is not symbolic. It is reality. Your words either plant seeds of life or strengthen the grip of death. That is why heaven is calling you now to reclaim your voice, to speak boldly, to declare what God has placed within you. Think about the walls of Jericho. They did not fall by sword or strategy, they fell by a shout. Think about David before Goliath. He did not win with stone alone, but with the declaration, "The battle is the Lord's." Even Jesus, when confronted by temptation, did not remain silent. He answered with words, "It is written." Every victory in Scripture was accompanied by a voice raised in alignment with God's truth. Chosen one, this is the moment for you to do the same. Your silence will not protect you, but your declaration will empower you. Even now, as you read these words, let faith rise inside of you. Refuse to agree with the whispers of doubt. Refuse to let fear define your speech. Open your mouth, type with your hand, and declare with your spirit. Comment this phrase below, "I hear you." Entry. Why those three words? Because when you declare, "I hear you," you are doing more than acknowledging this message. You are agreeing with heaven. You are saying, "Lord, my ears are open, my spirit is attentive, and I am ready to obey." That declaration silences the lies that tell you God has forgotten you. It breaks the power of doubt that says you are overlooked, and it reminds your own soul that you are not deaf to destiny. You are tuned in. Do not treat this lightly. Every declaration matters. Every word you speak or write is a seed. And this one is powerful because it positions you to receive the next instructions from heaven with clarity. So, beloved, lift your voice. Reclaim your authority. Speak life, not death. Blessings, not curses. Alignment, not confusion. Your voice was never meant to stay hidden. It was meant to roar. And as you declare, the atmosphere around you will shift, and the path before you will open. Chosen one. Timing is everything in the kingdom. You have cried, waited, and endured seasons that seemed never-ending. Delays have tested your patience. Disappointments have stretched your faith, and silence has tempted you to doubt. But hear this clearly. The delay was never denial. It was preparation for the sudden shift that is now at your doorstep. When God moves, He often does so in a moment that feels unexpected. Think of Paul and Silas in prison. They were chained, guarded, and seemingly trapped. Yet at midnight, as they lifted their voices in worship, an earthquake shook the foundations, and the doors flew open. That shift was not gradual, it was sudden. And that is the kind of move God is preparing in your life. The sudden shift means that prayers you thought were buried will suddenly bloom. Doors you thought were permanently locked will swing wide in a single moment. Relationships that once seemed broken beyond repair will experience unexpected reconciliation. Provision that looked delayed will arrive with swiftness. Heaven is about to move in ways that leave you standing in awe. Remember Joseph, who woke up in a prison cell and went to bed in a palace on the same day. That is how swiftly God moves when the appointed time comes. In one divine moment, years of pain and delay are overturned, and the testimony leaves no doubt about heaven's hand. Consider Esther, hidden as an orphan girl, but crowned queen overnight. What no one expected, heaven orchestrated in silence. When the moment came, favor lifted her beyond human reasoning. That is the nature of God's sudden shifts. They arrive without warning, but they always reveal purpose that was there from the beginning. The apostle reminds us in his second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 6, verse 2. In the time of favor, I heard you. In the day of salvation, I helped you. Now is the day. Beloved, the word is now, not someday, not far away, but now. You are stepping into the time of favor. Look back at how long you have been pressing forward, even when no evidence of change appeared. Every tear watered the soil of this moment. Every act of faith sowed into the ground of destiny. And though the earth seemed silent, roots were spreading. Foundations were strengthening. Suddenly, what was underground will burst into view. Chosen one. This is why you cannot quit now. This is why you must keep your heart open and your spirit aligned. The shift you have been waiting for will not arrive with warning. It will break open in an instant. And when it comes, you will look back and realize why the waiting mattered. Now, let me speak to you, heart to heart. If these words resonate in your spirit, if you feel the pull of confirmation deep inside, then stay connected. Like this message as a seal that your spirit is awake. Share it with someone who has been waiting in their own season of delay, because their midnight may be closer than they think. And subscribe, not for numbers, but because the flow of these words may carry the exact key you need in the days ahead. Connection is not coincidence, it is alignment. Beloved, the sudden shift is not a theory, it is a promise, and it is coming your way. Heaven's timing is precise, and your waiting has not been in vain. Prepare your heart, because the sound of doors unlocking is nearer than you realize. Chosen one. Favor is a mystery that cannot be manufactured by human effort. It is not earned by resumes, not purchased by connections, not unlocked by status. Favor is a gift, released by heaven in a way that often makes no sense to those who witness it. You may have spent years knocking on doors without answer, sending applications without reply, and striving with all your strength only to find yourself overlooked. But in one moment of divine favor, doors that were bolted shut will open wide, and no human hand will be able to close them. Unexplainable favor is when opportunities chase you instead of you chasing them. It is when your name is mentioned in rooms you have never entered, by people you have never met. It is when the spotlight finds you, even though you never sought it. It is when resources arrive just when you need them, without your striving, without your manipulation, without your control. Think of Ruth, gleaning in the fields as a foreigner, unnoticed and unworthy in the eyes of society. Yet favor caused Boaz to see her, protect her, and provide for her. That favor positioned her in the lineage of David and ultimately Christ. What began as ordinary labor ended in extraordinary destiny, because favor was upon her. Consider David, the forgotten shepherd boy, when Samuel came to anoint a king. Even his own father did not think to bring him forward, yet favor singled him out from the shadows of obscurity. Oil flowed over his head when logic said he was the least qualified. That is the nature of unexplainable favor. It finds you where you are and lifts you where you cannot lift yourself. It is written in the book of Psalms, chapter 5, verse 12. Surely, Lord, you bless the righteous. You surround them with your favor as with a shield. Chosen one. Favor is not fragile. It is not temporary. It surrounds you like a shield. Invisible, but undeniable. That is why you have survived attacks that should have destroyed you. Why you have been preserved in seasons where others fell away. Favor has been guarding you. This next season of your life will not be explained by effort alone. Yes, you have worked, prayed, endured, and been faithful. But what is about to unfold will outpace your effort. Favor will open doors that resume cannot. Favor will seat you at tables where your name was never on the guest list. Favor will align you with people who see not just your talent but your destiny. Chosen one. Do not downplay it when favor comes. Do not shrink back and call it coincidence. Recognize it as heaven's signature on your life. Those who see it may envy it. Others may question it. But you must carry it with humility and confidence, knowing it comes from above. And understand this, favor is never just for you. It flows through you. The blessing you receive is meant to bless others, to extend God's goodness, to point hearts upward. When favor lifts you, it is so that your life becomes a testimony of His glory. So prepare yourself. Opportunities will arrive uninvited. Honor will be extended unexpectedly. Provision will appear supernaturally. And when it does, you will know, this is not the result of human hands. This is unexplainable favor. And it rests upon you, chosen one. When heaven wants to capture your attention, it often does so in patterns, numbers, dreams, recurring signs. All of these are whispers from above, nudging your spirit to pay attention. You have likely seen the same number again and again in places that seem random, on receipts, on clocks, on addresses, even in your thoughts when you wake in the night. That repetition is not meaningless. It is heaven's way of saying, I am speaking, and this is your confirmation. And numbers are woven all through Scripture as carriers of divine meaning. 7 represents completion and perfection. 12 points to government and divine order. 40 signals, testing, and transition. Beloved, numbers are not just mathematics, they are messages. When God repeats a number to you, it is because He wants you to remember that His plan is precise, His timing exact, and His hand is guiding you step by step. Perhaps you have felt restless in this season, uncertain of what is next. You have sensed something shifting, but you cannot explain it. That is why heaven is giving you a sign in the form of numbers. It is confirmation that you are not drifting aimlessly. You are being guided into alignment. The ground beneath you may feel unfamiliar, but heaven's rhythm is steady, sure, and trustworthy. Think of how often numbers marked turning points in Scripture. Moses spent 40 years in the desert before leading Israel. Jesus fasted 40 days before his ministry began. The disciples waited in the upper room until the day of Pentecost fully came 50 days after Passover. None of these numbers were accidents. They were heaven's appointments. Your life carries that same precision. The Word of God declares in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3, "For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay." Chosen one. This is why heaven keeps showing you numbers. They are reminders that the vision, though it tarries, has its set hour, and the hour is approaching swiftly. Beloved, you may have thought delays were proof of denial, but heaven is saying otherwise. The pattern of numbers in your life is evidence that God has marked your steps, counted your days, and prepared your release. When the appointed moment comes, it will not be late. It will not be early. It will be exactly on time. Now, I invite you to act prophetically. Seal this moment with agreement. Comment the number 555 below. Why 555? Because it carries the weight of grace, multiplied triple grace. It is the banner of transformation, the sign of divine change. By typing 555, you are not just interacting, you are declaring, "Lord, I embrace the change." You are bringing, "I trust your timing. I welcome the transformation." Now, this simple act is an anchor for your spirit. It is your way of saying, "I refuse to fear the unfamiliar. I recognize your signs, and I align with them." Every time you see this number again, it will remind you of the declaration you made today, that you are ready for heaven's appointed shift. Chosen one, lean in, pay attention. The same God who marked times and seasons for his people of old is marking your days now. Do not dismiss the signs. Do not call them coincidence. They are divine whispers. They are confirmations of what your spirit already knows. You are stepping into alignment with God's perfect timing. So write it, speak it, declarate, cinci, sute, cincizeci și cinci. Let heaven see your agreement. Let earth bear witness to your faith. Let your own heart be sealed with expectation. The appointed time is not far away, it is near, and it carries your name, chosen one. When heaven begins to move in your life, it rarely does so in silence. God is a communicator, and when his hand is active, he confirms it through visions, signs, and repeated patterns. Many of the things you once dismissed as coincidence were not random at all. They were whispers from eternity, guiding you and affirming the path you walk. Think of how God has always spoken to his people, To Abraham, he spoke through the stars, promising descendants beyond number. To Moses, he appeared in a burning bush that refused to be consumed. To Gideon, he sent repeated confirmations until the man's trembling faith was steady enough to obey. To Peter, he gave a vision of unclean animals, breaking open the way for the gospel to reach the Gentiles. Beloved, your God is the same yesterday, today, and forever, still speaking, still confirming, still revealing. There are moments when you sense something stirring inside you, a thought or impression that feels heavier than the rest. Sometimes it comes in dreams so vivid they stay with you long after you wake. Other times it arrives in repeated encounters, a verse you keep seeing, a word that strangers echo without knowing, a situation that reappears until you cannot ignore it. These are not accidents. They are divine fingerprints, placed where only your spirit will recognize them. The prophet Joel declared in chapter 2, verse 28, "And afterward, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions." This is the inheritance of every chosen one, that the Spirit speaks not only through the written word, but also through living encounters. Your dreams are not meaningless. Your visions are not random. They are evidence that heaven is drawing near. Chosen one. Notice how often your spirit has been unsettled when others seemed at peace. You could not shake the sense that change was coming. You could not rest in places where others felt comfortable. That is because the spirit within you was already receiving hints of what heaven was planning. God has made your sensitivity a gift, not a burden. It is the antenna that allows you to pick up divine frequencies others overlook. But with this gift comes responsibility. You cannot afford to dismiss every sign as chance. You cannot silence the dreams that trouble your spirit. You are called to pay attention, to lean in, to ask, "Lord, what are you saying to me through this?" Sometimes the signs will comfort you, other times they will warn you. In both cases, they are evidence of God's nearness and His desire to guide your steps. Look back and remember the patterns that marked your journey. Was there a time when you kept seeing the same phrase, hearing the same verse, or encountering the same scenario again and again? That was God preparing you for what came next. And if He was faithful to confirm His plan then, will He not continue to confirm it now? Chosen one. Heaven does not play games with your destiny. When God speaks through repetition, He is making sure you do not miss it. When He sends visions, He is pulling back the curtain so you can glimpse what lies ahead. When He stirs your spirit in the night, it is because He wants you awake in prayer, not asleep in ignorance. So open your eyes, sharpen your ears, write down the dreams you are given. Pay attention to the patterns that surround you. God is not silent. He is speaking louder than you think, through means that carry His signature. And the more you notice, the more you will realize you are not wandering blindly. You are being led, step by step, sign by sign, vision by vision, into the fullness of your calling. Chosen one. One of the mysteries of God's orchestration is how He sends the right people into your life at the right time, often the very ones you least expect. The divine plan is not only about your personal strength, it is also about the partnerships heaven assigns to you. Many times, those who overlooked you in the past, or even dismissed you, will be the same ones God sends later as instruments of support and elevation. Consider Joseph again. The same brothers who betrayed him and sold him into slavery became the ones who bowed before him in Egypt. Receiving provision during famine, what once looked like irreversible betrayal became the context for reconciliation and restoration. In God's hands, even broken relationships can become bridges. Think of David. Saul once hunted him with murderous intent, yet Jonathan, Saul's own son, became David's closest ally. Jonathan risked his life to protect David, affirming his destiny as king. Partnership came from the very house that opposed him. That is the paradox of divine alliances. Help often arises from unlikely places. The ancient words recorded in Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 10 remind us, "Foreigners will rebuild your walls, and their kings will serve you. Though in anger I struck you, in favor I will show you compassion." This verse is more than history. It is prophecy for your own journey. God has already assigned people, some you know, some you have not met, to carry pieces of your destiny. They will bring resources, encouragement, and opportunities, not because of obligation, but because of divine instruction. Chosen one. It is important that you do not close your heart because of past wounds. Rejection may have taught you to isolate, but isolation cannot carry you to destiny. God works through community, through connection, through covenant. You were not designed to finish this journey alone. While your calling is unique, it is not solitary. Sometimes, the ones sent to help you will not look spiritual at all. They may be positioned in business, government, or culture. Yet, behind the scenes, heaven has moved their hearts to notice you, to open doors for you, or to protect you in moments of vulnerability. That is why it is dangerous to assume you know who God will use. His choices often surprise. Chosen one. Prepare yourself to recognize and receive these partnerships. Do not let pride keep you from accepting help. Do not let suspicion blind you to divine provision. Discernment will be crucial. Yes, but so will openness. The very person you thought would never notice you may be the one God chooses to elevate you. Look carefully at your past. Can you see glimpses of this pattern already? People who once ignored you later reached out. Doors you thought were sealed, reopened unexpectedly through those same hands. These were not accidents. They were rehearsals for what is coming. The scale will be greater, the impact deeper, the timing precise. Do not despise small alliances, for they may grow into pillars of destiny. And do not idolize partnerships, for the source is always God. People are instruments, not origins. The glory belongs to Him alone. Beloved, trust this. God knows how to send the right voices into your life. He knows who will stand beside you when the unveiling comes. And even now, He is aligning the connections that will carry you into the fullness of your calling. Chosen one. There is a moment in every divine story when the ashes are exchanged for beauty, the rags for robes, the wilderness for the promised land. You have walked through seasons where shame tried to cover you, where heaviness clung to your spirit, where rejection tried to convince you that you were unworthy. But heaven is declaring, the time of exchange has come. The crown of glory is being placed upon your head, and no force of darkness can take it from you. Think of the prodigal son, returning home in rags, expecting rejection, only to be met with embrace. a robe, and a ring of honor. That is what God does with his chosen. He does not merely forgive, he restores. He does not simply remove shame, he replaces it with dignity. What once marked you as broken will now mark you as chosen. The prophet Isaiah recorded this promise in chapter 61, verse 3, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning. Beloved, this is not just poetry, it is your inheritance. The ashes of your past are being traded for beauty. The heaviness you carried is lifting, replaced by joy. The despair that whispered lies is giving way to songs of praise. Chosen one, you may feel unworthy to wear this crown. The enemy will whisper reminders of every mistake, every failure, every wound. But crowns are not given because of perfection, they are given because of adoption. You are not standing in your own strength, you are standing in the grace of the one who chose you. And his word is final. This is your call to lift your head high. Do not shrink back into silence. Do not hide your face in shame. The crown fits you because heaven designed it for you. Your scars do not disqualify you. They prove that you endured. Your tears do not discredit you. They watered the soil for your testimony. This is the season of divine exchange. Now, let me pause and speak from the heart. If this word resonates within you, if you sense the weight of confirmation, then stay connected. Like this message as a way of declaring, I receive my crown. Share it with someone who has been walking under the shadow of shame, so they too can step into beauty. Comment below your agreement, because sometimes typing the words is the first act of faith. And subscribe, not as a formality, but as a way of staying aligned with the flow of what heaven is releasing. And what should you comment? Type these words, I choose my crown. Why? Because in doing so, you silence the lies of shame and announce to the world and to yourself that you are stepping into your rightful place. This is not pride. This is agreement with God's declaration over your life. Beloved, do not miss this moment. The crown exchange is here. You will not walk with your head bowed low any longer. You will stand tall. Not because of your own glory, but because the King has placed his glory upon you. And when others look at you, they will see the radiance of heaven shining through. Chosen one. What has been hidden is about to be unveiled. You have walked through years where your efforts seemed unseen, your obedience unnoticed, your faith overlooked. It felt like you were laboring in silence, sowing seeds into soil that refused to show fruit. But hidden seasons are never wasted. They are the womb of what heaven is preparing to reveal. There is a principle written into the fabric of creation. What grows underground must one day break into the light. Seeds cannot stay buried forever. They are designed to push upward, to sprout, to bear fruit. In the same way, you cannot remain hidden forever. The gifts, the anointing, the calling inside you are pressing upward, waiting for the appointed time of unveiling. Consider Moses. For 40 years he lived in obscurity in Midian, shepherding flocks, unseen by nations. But when the moment came, God sent him back into Egypt, not as a fugitive, but as a deliverer. Think of David, playing his harp alone in the fields, hidden from the eyes of men. Yet the day came when Samuel's horn poured oil over his head, and his hidden worship became public kingship. Even Jesus spent 30 years in quiet preparation before 3 years of open ministry shook the world. The Word of God declares in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 8, verse 17, "For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, nothing concealed that will not be known or brought into the open." Chosen one. This is the assurance you carry. Every moment of silence, every hidden prayer, every unseen sacrifice will be brought into the light. Heaven has been recording what earth ignored, and the unveiling is near. Do not despise the hidden years, for they have been your foundation. They taught you dependence when applause was absent. They trained your character when no stage was watching. They gave you intimacy with God that cannot be faked. And now, what was forged in private will shine in public. But remember this, unveiling is not about fame or recognition, it is about purpose. When God brings you into visibility, it is so your light can guide others. Your story will become a testimony, your scars a roadmap, your victories a banner of hope. People who once overlooked you will turn to listen, not because you sought the spotlight, but because heaven has placed you there, chosen one. Prepare your heart for this moment. The unveiling can feel overwhelming. Eyes will be on you. Voices will speak both for and against you, and responsibility will increase. That is why God kept you hidden for so long, so that when visibility comes, your roots are deep enough to withstand the winds. Soon, the stage you never asked for will find you. The opportunities you thought passed you by will come back around, this time bearing your name. The very places where you were once ignored will be the places where your voice carries weight. The unveiling is not distant, it is unfolding now. Stand tall. Beloved, lift your eyes. What was once hidden in the shadows is about to radiate in the open. And when it does, the world will see what heaven has always known. You are chosen, prepared, and ready for such a time as this. Chosen one. This is the hour when your life begins to carry a testimony that makes no sense to the natural mind. What you are stepping into cannot be explained by logic, achievement, or human planning. It will be a story so unusual, so beyond comprehension, that the only explanation people will be able to give is this: God did it. For too long, you measured yourself against what you could see, what you could control, what you could calculate. But the season you are entering will not be marked by calculation, it will be marked by wonder. The provision will come from directions you never imagined. The opportunities will appear without strategy. The breakthroughs will outpace your preparation. Heaven is writing a narrative that refuses to fit inside human categories. Think of Sarah, who laughed at the promise of a child in her old age, only to hold Isaac in her arms. Think of Peter, a fisherman who toiled all night without a catch, then obeyed one instruction from Jesus and saw nets break under the weight of abundance. Think of Lazarus, 4 days in the grave, yet walking out alive when Christ called his name. These are not stories of logic. They are testimonies of a God who moves beyond reason. The Apostle Paul proclaimed in the letter to the Ephesians, chapter 3, verse 20, "Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us." Beloved, this is your promise. You are not stepping into what you can imagine. You are stepping into what exceeds imagination. Chosen one. There will be moments when you hesitate, wondering if it is real, if it will last, if you are worthy of such goodness. Cast those doubts aside. You did not earn this by perfection. You did not manufacture it by effort. You are simply walking into what God prepared long before you could see it. This is not random favor. It is appointed destiny. And here is the wonder, as your life begins to unfold in this new way, it will draw the gaze of others. They will ask how you survived, what should have destroyed you, how you walked through fire and came out without the smell of smoke, how you carried burdens and yet now stand crowned with joy. And in that moment, your answer will not point to self, but to Him who carried you all along. The unexplainable life is not about luxury or ease. It is about testimony. It is about living so aligned with God's purposes that everything around you points to His reality. Your story will disrupt doubt, silence, mockery, and awaken faith in those who thought miracles belonged only to the past. You are the evidence that God still moves in ways that defy reason. Chosen one. Take a deep breath and lift your heart in expectation. You are crossing into a chapter where heaven and earth meet in your life. Every valley you endured, every tear you shed, every night you thought was wasted, they are all converging into a glory that no eye has seen, no ear has heard, and no heart has fully conceived. And yet, it is here. Walk boldly into it. Live unashamed in it. Carry it with humility, but also with confidence, because the world is waiting for lives like yours, lives that do not make sense, except through the undeniable hand of God. Chosen one, you have walked with me through every word, every section, every revelation, from the valley of rejection to the crown of glory, from the silence of waiting to the sudden shift of favor. Heaven has been speaking over you. Now, as this journey closes, your own begins. What has been whispered into your spirit must not stay as words. It must become action, faith, and alignment. You are not ordinary. You were never meant to blend in or fade away. The story of your life is heaven's stage, and the chapters ahead will shine brighter than those behind. This is your confirmation that you are chosen, sealed, and prepared for such a time as this. What God is about to do in your life will not make sense to many, but it will carry His undeniable fingerprints. The Apostle reminds us in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 1, verse 7, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." Let this verse be your banner as you step forward. Fear will not bind you. Confusion will not hold you. Power, love, and clarity will mark your steps. Beloved, if this message has resonated with you, let us seal it together. Like this message as a sign that your spirit is awake. Share it with someone who needs to be reminded. They, too, are chosen. Comment below in faith, because your words carry weight in heaven, and subscribe, not out of routine, but as a commitment to stay aligned with the flow of what God is saying in this season. This is not the end, it is the beginning. Walk forward, chosen one. The world is waiting for your light.